It was past midnight in Baton Rouge. The CVS parking lot sat nearly empty, shadows stretching long under the amber streetlights. An old soda can rolled across the pavement with a metallic clink, and the hum of the air conditioning units behind the pharmacy was the only sound cutting through the stillness. Tasha Lane stepped out of her dusty black Dodge, the kind of car that didn't draw attention. She moved slow, her shoulders hunched from exhaustion. Her hoodie was oversized, her joggers creased at the knees, and her sneakers scuffed from wear. She wasn't trying to impress anyone, not tonight. All she wanted was a bottle of water and 5 minutes of silence after a brutal training session. Her braided hair was pulled into a messy bun. No makeup, no jewelry, no fanfare. Just a tired black woman minding her business in a quiet American parking lot. But the moment her door shut, headlights flared from behind. A patrol car rolled in slow, deliberate, tires crunching against the loose gravel at the edge of the lot. Tasha's eyes narrowed. Her body didn't move, but her senses lit up. She knew that rhythm, knew that sound. The cruiser pulled up diagonally behind her, blocking her car. She was already halfway to the store's entrance when the spotlight hit her back. "Evening," came the voice. It wasn't warm. She turned slowly. A white cop stepped out, tall, buzz-cut, pale skin catching the light. His belt sagged slightly with equipment. His hand hovered near his taser. "You got somewhere you're supposed to be?" he asked. Tasha blinked, lips pressed together. "Just grabbing water." The officer looked her up and down like she was a threat disguised as a human. "This lot's been flagged lately. Break-ins, loitering. You fit the profile." She exhaled lightly. "I parked legally. Just came from training." He smirked. "Training for what?" "Judo." He let out a low laugh, the kind that meant mockery, not humor. "Judo? That a real thing down in Louisiana? What are you, some kind of ninja?" Tasha didn't answer. The man took a step closer. "ID?" "In my car." "Then let's go get it. Slowly." She turned, already regretting saying anything at all. She could feel the tension rolling off him. It wasn't about safety. It was about control. Boots echoed behind her. Close. Too close. She opened the driver's side door and leaned inside, keeping one hand visible. Before she could even reach for her wallet, she felt it. His hand landed on her back, firm, uninvited. She froze, not because she was scared, but because this game was familiar. "Big bag for just a water run," he muttered. "It's my gym bag," she said, without looking at him. "And I'd appreciate not being touched." His voice dipped lower. "Relax. It's standard procedure." Then his fingers brushed down her left arm. Not quick, not accidental, deliberate. She stepped forward, away from him, and turned to face him head-on. "I said don't touch me." His smile didn't fade, but it twisted. Something cruel sparked in his eyes. "What's the matter?" he asked. "Don't like a little attention?" She didn't answer, didn't flinch, just stared straight through him. The officer stepped closer again, now barely a foot away. "Look, sweetheart," he said, "you've got a whole story for everything. Louisiana accent, tired face, gym bag at midnight. You people always have a story." Her fists clenched inside her sleeves. His hand gestured lazily toward her bag. "Let's make sure you're not stealing anything." Tasha didn't move. The bag still hung from her shoulder. The silence between them grew thick, like heat pressing against skin. Somewhere in the distance, a car passed, but here It was just her and the man in uniform playing God. "I'm not stealing anything," she said, voice flat. He tilted his head like he was enjoying this. "Then you won't mind if I take a quick look?" "I do mind." The smirk vanished. "Turn around." "No." His hand shifted to his holster. Not on the gun, yet, but the message was clear. "You're resisting a lawful search." "You have no reason to search me." He stepped forward again, inches from her. "Lady, you're in a private lot, after midnight. You fit the description. I've got every reason." She looked him dead in the eyes. "My ID's in the bag. I'll show you. You don't need to touch anything." "You don't give me orders." His tone turned ice cold. Then, in a move so fast she didn't see it coming, he reached out and grabbed her wrist. It wasn't hard, but it wasn't gentle either. She tensed. "I said turn around," he growled. "I said let go." But he didn't. And that was the moment everything changed. She didn't yank, didn't panic. She moved. A pivot of the hip, a subtle drop of her weight, and his arm shifted under his own momentum. In a blink, he was off balance. She didn't slam him, just redirected him, enough for him to stumble a step sideways. He caught himself, wide-eyed. "You just assaulted a police officer," he shouted, grabbing his radio. "No," she said. "I stopped you from assaulting me." He reached for his cuffs. "Hands behind your back. Now." She stood still. Her bag slid to the ground. "Last warning." He lunged this time, no hesitation. And this time, she was ready. She sidestepped, spun, and swept his legs out from under him. He crashed onto his side with a grunt. His baton clattered against the pavement. For a second, he didn't move. Tasha stepped back, hands up. "I don't want to hurt you. I don't want any trouble. But don't touch me again." He rolled to his knees, rage etched into every line of his face. "You're going to regret this," he hissed. "I'll make sure they bury you." He grabbed his radio. "Officer down. Repeat. Suspect is violent and resisting. Request immediate backup." Tasha didn't run, didn't move. Her hands were still in the air. Her chest rose and fell in quiet rhythm. This wasn't fear. It was clarity. Within minutes, sirens lit up the night like fireworks. 2 squad cars pulled in hard, tires screeching. Officers jumped out with weapons drawn. "Freeze! Hands where we can see them!" She didn't resist. She turned slowly, her voice calm. "I haven't done anything wrong." One of them slammed her against the hood of her own car. Metal bit into her cheek. "She tried to disarm me," Officer Blake barked. "Put her in cuffs." The cold steel clicked tight against her wrists. She said nothing. They shoved her into the back of the cruiser, slamming the door shut. From behind a bush near the sidewalk, a faint glow flickered. A teenager, hoodie pulled over his head, hands shaking, held up his phone. The screen captured everything. He whispered under his breath. "She didn't do anything. That cop, he grabbed her first. That's messed up." He kept recording as the car pulled away, tail lights disappearing into the night. Inside the patrol vehicle, Tasha stared straight ahead. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It pressed against her chest. Not panic, not anger, just a heaviness she knew all too well. Another uniform, another hand, another night. It didn't matter who she was. Not to them. Not yet. The patrol car's interior felt like a sealed box. Tasha sat in the back seat, wrists cuffed, knees together, staring at the reflection of herself in the scratched divider glass. The hum of the engine mixed with the crackle of the officer's radio, and though no one had said a word to her since they cuffed her, she could feel it. They didn't know who she was. Not yet. Outside, the lights of Baton Rouge blurred past. Billboards, gas stations, empty streets and traffic lights stuck on blinking yellow. In her mind, she replayed the moment his hand touched her shoulder. How fast he shifted from fake polite to full control. How easily he called her dangerous. But a few blocks away, in a small second-story apartment above a check-cashing place, someone did know. Malik Harris was 17. Quiet. The type who stayed in his lane. He'd been riding his board near the CVS when he heard the yelling. At first, he thought it was a couple arguing. But when he saw the patrol cars, something made him stop, made him record. Now, he sat on his bed, knees pulled up, phone in his hand. The glow of the screen lit up his face. He'd watched the clip 5 times already. The way the officer touched her. The moment she said, "Don't touch me." The way she moved. Clean, calm, controlled. Then the cuffs. The slam. Her silence. He didn't know her name, but his gut told him she didn't deserve that. He clicked upload. The caption was simple. Cop grabs black woman. She flips him. Guess what? She's an Olympian. He didn't even know if it was true. But within minutes, it didn't matter. The video hit TikTok first. A few shares, a few "wait, what happened?" comments. Then it snowballed. Someone reposted it on Twitter with the tag, "Who is she?" That's when the MMA crowd noticed. Yo, isn't that Tasha Lane? She won gold in judo in '08. That's her. She flipped a cop and got arrested? Nah, run that back. Within 30 minutes, the video had over 100,000 views. Then came the reactions. He put his hands on her first. Watch closely. She told him to back off. How is she the one in cuffs? Another cop abusing power. And they caught the wrong black woman this time. By sunrise, it had hit Instagram, YouTube Shorts, Reddit. News outlets hadn't picked it up yet. But the internet had. Inside the station, Tasha sat in a small holding room. Fluorescent light buzzed above. The walls were beige and cracked. Her hoodie felt tight across her back from the cuffs. No one had asked her anything. No charges read. No rights given. Just silence. She wasn't confused. She was calculating. They didn't know who they had in that cell, but they were about to. At that exact moment, across town, a local reporter at WBRZ got a call from her niece. "Auntie, you've got to see this TikTok. That's Tasha Lane. They arrested her." The reporter opened the video, watched it once, then again, then again. She didn't even stop to grab her coat. By the time she reached her newsroom, 3 producers were already staring at the same clip. Is this real? That's her. Get legal on standby. If we go live with this, we're going to need backup. By 10 a.m., the station broke the story. Olympic gold medalist Tasha Lane arrested after officer initiates force. Viral video sparks outrage. The headline hit Twitter like a hammer. Within an hour, it was on CNN, NBC, and ESPN. Athletes began to tweet. Influencers posted breakdowns of the video. Attorneys weighed in on live streams. Former cops even began commenting, "That wasn't protocol. That was intimidation." Back at the station, a captain walked past the holding cell window, paused, then came back and stared in. For the first time, someone looked at her not like a suspect, but like a problem. Because suddenly, they realized she wasn't just another arrest. She was a headline. And that meant the system was about to bleed. The hallway outside the holding cell smelled like bleach and stale coffee. Tasha sat on a cold metal bench, her hoodie still tight across her shoulders, wrists marked red from the cuffs. The buzzing fluorescent light above flickered every few seconds, like even the electricity was tired. No one had spoken to her since they'd shoved her into the room. No one had read her rights. No one had told her the charges. She knew that wasn't a mistake. They were stalling, waiting, figuring out what to do now that the arrest wasn't just local anymore. Through the narrow window, officers kept walking by, some glancing, some pretending not to. But they all knew. Whispers spread like smoke. The woman they had thrown against a car was not just another black woman from the South. She was Tasha Lane, Olympic gold medalist, world judo champion, advocate, quiet but powerful. They were too late to undo what they had done, but not too late to try to control the story. Somewhere 2 doors down, a captain barked into a phone. "We'll say she got aggressive. That she attacked him first. We have backup officers on scene. It's her word against 3 uniforms." The officer from last night, Blake, sat in the corner of a briefing room with a makeshift sling wrapped over his arm, scowling like he was the victim. "She's violent. I got the bruises to prove it," he muttered. What he didn't know was that the video was already playing on flat screens across the country. Every time he spoke, the footage contradicted him. Every claim, every "she resisted," every lie, unraveling in real time. In the holding cell, Tasha's fingers tapped lightly against her leg. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A rhythm she used in training to slow her pulse, clear her mind. She wasn't angry. She was patient. She had been here before, in different forms, but never with this much light watching. The door creaked open. A short woman in a wrinkled blazer stepped inside, holding a folder and an iPad. Her name was Leah Winters, civil rights attorney, old friend, and right now, Tasha's lifeline. "You all right?" Leah asked softly. Tasha nodded once. "Don't say anything else until we're in the room." They walked out together, escorted by 2 officers who wouldn't meet Tasha's eyes. At the front desk, an older man in a captain's uniform stood stiff, trying to pretend he wasn't sweating. "We're still reviewing the charges," he said, clearing his throat. "You mean making them up?" Leah snapped. "You had no warrant, no probable cause, no Miranda rights. You assaulted and detained a public figure, and now you're scrambling. This department acted within—" Leah pulled out her phone, tapped twice, and held up the screen. The viral video played, the moment the officer touched Tasha's shoulder. The spin, the sweep, the cuffs. "Within what?" she asked. "Because the rest of America's watching this on repeat." The captain's jaw tightened. "This is under investigation." "No," Tasha said finally. "This is under exposure." A reporter's voice echoed from a small TV behind the desk. Confirmed by USA Judo that Tasha Lane was unlawfully detained after a confrontation with a Baton Rouge police officer turned physical. The video has sparked outrage nationwide. The captain turned the volume down quickly. Leah slid a signed affidavit across the counter. "We're filing civil action today. I suggest you release her before this department drowns in the fallout." Another officer approached, whispering something urgently to the captain. He looked at Tasha. then at the paper, then back at the screen playing the video behind the desk. "Fine," he muttered. "Release her." In the background, Officer Blake's voice rose. "You're letting her walk? She assaulted me." The captain raised a hand. "That's enough." Tasha stood silently as the cuffs were removed. Her wrists ached, but she made no sound, no wince, no breath of relief. She just turned, walked. At the front door, a crowd waited. Reporters, civilians, flashing lights. Voices overlapped in a roar. "Tasha, do you want to comment? What really happened out there? Are you pressing charges?" She stopped under the department's crest, a polished metal badge mounted over the entrance, and looked out over the swarm of faces. "I didn't resist," she said, her voice steady. "I didn't attack anyone. I defended myself from a man who used his badge to put his hands on me. And I won't stop until people like him stop getting away with it." The crowd hushed, and the cameras didn't stop rolling. The sun barely touched the horizon when the first message came in. It was a direct message to Tasha's public page. No name, no photo, just a few lines. "He did it to me, too. 2019. Same parking lot." Then another. "Officer Blake pulled me over at night, said I fit the profile. He made me step out, said he had to pat me down for weapons. I was 17. By noon, there were 20 more. Some came from burner accounts. Some from women using real names, real faces. One even had screenshots from a now-deleted complaint report. All of them told the same story. Officer Derek Blake. Night shift. Isolated areas. Black women. Harassment disguised as procedure. The pattern was undeniable, and the world had already seen what happened when one of them fought back. Leah sat across from Tasha at a kitchen table surrounded by laptop screens and legal pads. The room buzzed with tension, emails chiming every few minutes, TikToks and reaction clips auto-playing in the background. "People are coming forward because of you," Leah said, "because you didn't stay quiet." Tasha shook her head. "They're coming forward because he finally got caught on camera." Leah leaned back, scanning the latest message. "Some of these match incident reports we already pulled. Time, date, badge number. But the reports were closed. Unsubstantiated. Insufficient evidence. No body cam footage." "They buried it," Tasha said. "And he knew they would." Outside, reporters gathered across the street. The media van parked beside the hydrant had been there for hours. The city was quiet on the surface, but online it was boiling. Hashtags trended. "Praise justice for Tasha." "No badge above consent." "How many others?" The story had moved beyond a single incident. This wasn't just about a cop anymore. It was about the culture that protected him. That night, WBRZ released a new segment. The anchor's voice was calm, but the footage wasn't. "We've obtained exclusive access to internal records showing Officer Blake was transferred to Baton Rouge from another precinct after a civil suit was filed against him in 2018. The screen showed a scanned legal form, redacted names, a familiar signature. The case was dismissed, settled quietly. No charges, no disciplinary action. The same officer, the same tactics, a different city. Tasha watched the segment in silence. Her fingers were locked together on the arm of the couch. Across from her, Leah's jaw was clenched tight. "They moved him," she said, "like cargo." "They protected him," Tasha replied, "and they hoped No one would talk. The next morning, a protest formed outside the police department. Dozens of people at first, then hundreds. Signs read, "I believe her." She fought back. Silence protects predators. Tasha didn't go. Not yet. But her name echoed through the crowd anyway. By the afternoon, 2 more women came forward publicly, on camera. They spoke to national reporters with trembling voices but sharp memory. He pulled me over on the way home from work, told me I looked suspicious. He touched my waist. I filed a complaint. Nothing happened. He said if I didn't cooperate, he'd take me in. I was scared. I never told anyone. Until now. Their voices cracked, but they spoke anyway. And that made the difference. A third woman released a video, her retelling from 5 years ago. Her eyes were red, but her voice didn't shake. "I thought it was my fault. I thought if I hadn't worn that hoodie, if I'd been more polite. But now I know. It was never about me. It was about power." Tasha stood behind the screen watching. She didn't blink. They were telling her story, and she was carrying theirs. Later that night, a quiet knock came at Leah's office. A man stood in the doorway, holding a flash drive. He wore a baseball cap, his face down. "I used to work admin at the precinct," he said. "I saw things they buried." He handed the drive over, no name, no explanation. When Leah plugged it in, dozens of files popped up. Internal emails, transfer memos, redacted complaints, and in the middle of them, a document titled Internal Watch List, classified. Tasha stared at it. Inside were names. Not just Blake. Other officers. Other locations. Same pattern, same shield of silence. She leaned forward slowly, her voice low. They didn't just protect him. They trained him. The courtroom was colder than it should have been. White walls, gray carpet. Every cough echoed. Every tap of a keyboard from the court reporter felt like thunder. Tasha sat at the defense table, her posture calm, back straight, eyes forward. The cuffs were gone, but the weight of the room pressed on her like armor. Across the aisle sat Officer Derek Blake. No sling this time, no bruises, just a fresh haircut and a suit tailored too sharp for someone on paid leave. He didn't look at her. The judge entered. Everyone stood. This wasn't a trial yet, not officially. It was a pre-hearing, but the air said otherwise. The gallery was packed. Reporters, activists, even law students scribbling every word. The DA leaned forward first. "Your Honor, we're here on charges of resisting arrest, assaulting a police officer, and attempted disarmament." Leah didn't flinch. "My client, Ms. Tasha Lane, defended herself from an unlawful physical confrontation by a law enforcement officer with a documented history of misconduct." The judge raised a brow. "Documented?" Leah tapped her folder. "Your Honor, we'd like to submit supplemental evidence, newly obtained." She handed the bailiff a thick packet. "Inside," she said, "you'll find video footage of the initial encounter, followed by formal complaints previously sealed, and a list of internal department emails that suggest an active effort to suppress investigations into Officer Blake's conduct." The judge skimmed the top page. His eyes didn't change, but his silence did. "We ask that all charges be dismissed immediately, and that the court order a federal review into the department's handling of Blake's record." The DA objected. "This is a simple use of force arrest." The defendant escalated the encounter. Tasha didn't speak. She didn't have to. Because outside the courtroom, the truth was already louder than any argument inside. The drive delivered to Leah's office had gone viral. A leaked version of the internal watch list hit Reddit. Journalists had broken down the patterns. Former officers stepped forward, anonymously confirming it was real. Every name on that list had at least one misconduct complaint tied to a woman of color. Some had dozens, some had settlements, most still wore badges. And now that list was being read aloud on TV screens across the country. Tasha sat still, hands folded. Her breathing was even. The judge turned to the prosecution. Does the state have any counter-evidence to refute the authenticity of these documents? The DA hesitated. We haven't had time to review. You had time to charge a woman without reviewing video. You'll take time to explain this. Blake's jaw tightened. From the gallery, a quiet voice spoke up. Your Honor? Everyone turned. A woman stood, nervous, clutching a small purse to her chest. Behind her, two others rose. Then a third. I filed a complaint about Officer Blake in 2021. It never went anywhere. Another woman added, Mine was in 2017. They told me I was exaggerating. The judge looked to security. Leah stepped in fast. They're witnesses, Your Honor. All three are listed in the redacted files you're holding. Silence. Then the judge leaned back. This isn't just a case of excessive force, he said slowly. This is a matter of institutional failure. He turned to the bailiff. Call in federal oversight, effective immediately. I'm freezing all current motions until an independent review is completed. Officer Blake, you are suspended without pay, and your badge is hereby surrendered to this court. Blake stood up, stunned. You can't. The judge didn't blink. I just did. Leah placed her hand lightly on Tasha's wrist. It was over. At least here. Outside, the crowd waited. When the courtroom doors opened, the flash of cameras lit the hallway. Reporters shouted questions, microphones stretched like spears. Tasha didn't speak at first, but then she stopped at the top of the courthouse steps. She looked out at the people who had followed this story, who had fought for it, who had finally seen someone like them not just survive, but win. They tried to bury me under paperwork, under silence, under fear, but all it took was one video, one witness, one woman who wouldn't let go. She looked straight into the nearest camera lens. There are others still waiting, still trapped in the system that covered for him. We're not done, not until every name on that list is exposed. The crowd erupted. Horns, applause, protest chants folding into celebration. Somewhere in the background, a mural artist painted her face on a brick wall. Calm, fierce, unshaken. She hadn't just walked into court. She'd walked through it and left the door wide open. The city moved differently now. Street corners that once felt like blind spots were filled with murals, signs, and candles left behind from marches that refused to stay quiet. Tasha walked alone along the Mississippi River Trail, hood pulled over her head, face bare. Not hiding. Just breathing. She wasn't a headline today. No cameras, no microphones, no police radios tracking her moves, just the sound of water and the occasional rustle of wind through trees that lined the path. It had been 2 weeks since the hearing. 2 weeks since Officer Blake handed over his badge without looking her in the eye. Since federal oversight opened cases tied to nearly a dozen names from the internal watch list. Since her inbox stopped being flooded with hate and started filling with truth. Messages from black women in Michigan, from mothers in Georgia, from daughters in Chicago. They had stories, too, and they weren't scared to say them anymore. Inside a small community hall in North Baton Rouge, a circle of women sat together. Not for therapy, not for pity, but for strategy. Some had been harassed, others silenced, all of them ignored, until now. Tasha stood in the middle, her arms crossed, but her stance relaxed. "No one gave me this platform," she said. "They tried to take it, but y'all gave it back to me." A woman with gray streaks in her locks stood up. "You ain't just gave us a platform, baby. You gave us the green light." Laughter echoed, and for the first time in weeks, Tasha smiled without thinking. Across town, headlines still carried her name. One from the Times: "Olympian becomes reluctant symbol of justice." Another from the Post: "How a Baton Rouge traffic stop sparked a national reckoning." She never asked to be a symbol. She didn't want it. But the system didn't ask her permission either. And now that it had touched her, she had no choice but to touch it back. Later that evening, Leah joined her at the river. The two sat on a rusted bench, their coats wrapped tight. Behind them, the city glowed soft in the distance, a little more awake than before. "You ready for the next phase?" Leah asked. Tasha didn't answer right away. She pulled out a folder from her bag, slim but sharp. Inside were names, departments, patterns, more fragments from the drive, a network she'd barely started mapping. She handed it to Leah. "They moved him before. They'll move others." Leah flipped through the pages, then nodded. "We'll expose every last one." Tasha looked out over the water. "I used to think if you followed the rules, kept your head down, earned your stripes, they'd leave you alone." Leah stayed quiet. "They don't care about medals, or honor, or discipline. They see black skin and a hoodie, and they already wrote the ending." "But you rewrote it." Tasha's jaw tightened. "Not enough. Not yet." She stood up slowly, stretching out her arms like shaking off years of silence. Down the street, a mural of her face stared back from a brick wall next to the words, "She fought back." But she didn't stop to look. She kept walking. The next morning, a federal press release hit every major outlet. Multiple precincts were under audit. Lawsuits reopened. Evidence pulled from sealed archives. Whistleblowers granted immunity. Officers suspended pending trial. The movement wasn't a hashtag anymore. It was policy. In a small classroom in Baltimore, a teacher played the video of Tasha speaking on the courthouse steps. In a youth center in Oakland, young girls practiced judo on torn mats, whispering her name between drills. In a quiet home in Mississippi, a mother sat with her daughter watching CNN, her hand resting gently over the child's. "She looks like us," the girl said. "She fights for us," the mother replied. Tasha Lane never went back to the Olympics. She didn't need to. She stepped into a different kind of arena, one where medals didn't matter, but every move could still knock someone to the ground. And this time, she wasn't fighting alone. The silence they tried to bury her under? It never came back.